What's up, everyone? I'm Thomas with ForReel,
I'm Derrick with NerdBot, and
and
this
this is
is
Snubbed.
Snubbed.
Snubbed is our opportunity to go back and correct some things about the Oscars. As we know, we can't correct everything about the Oscars, but we're going to try our hardest to fix at least a couple things and right the wrongs that may have transpired in previous Oscar award shows and awardings. So, Derrick, let's discuss what year and category we're doing this time.
Yeah, so we are doing the 94th Academy Awards, relatively recent. So this would be films that premiered between. This is the shortest year for qualification, by the way. So the qualifications for these movies were March 1st of 2021 to December 31st of 2021. So any film that got released in that slate would qualify for an Oscar, and then the actual 94th Academy Awards appeared in 2022.
Yeah. Yeah, this year was a very interesting year. And when we were talking about what like which category we were going to pick, I feel like there was a number of categories we could have picked.
I think all of the above the line categories for this year. Yeah, so contextually, I think this is a good year because this is a year where it's overshadowed by a lot of controversy, right? Like I don't want to talk about the slap any more than anybody else,
Right.
which I think overshadowed the entire show. And then that's anything anybody talked about after that. Then he won the Oscar, which just everything about this whole award season was so bizarre. But we were kind of talking about it off air, and I'll shed some light on it because contextually, I think it makes a lot of sense. Because this year in particular, as we're kind of knee deep as we're recording, we're kind of knee deep in the Oscar discourse, right? We just had at the time of this recording, we just finished the BAFTAs. SAG's around the corner. Like we're pretty much in the end game now. But this year, because we're not in a pandemic, movies are back, theaters are open, studios are out there pushing their stuff, festival season is alive and well, all these things that were missed in this particular year in 2021, coming off the pandemic, working in this strange limbo space of like we're on lockdown but not really, theaters are back but not really, like it was just kind of this weird thing. So this year you have all these precursors, you have all these people that have this incredible discourse, and everybody's making predictions, and all the prediction lists look the same, and everybody's just chatting about the Oscars. Whereas in this 94th year in 2021, we were just like, dude, we just need movies. Like we just need movies. I don't care what the list looks like. We just need movies because we're starved for them. We've been denied them for a year. So it's just there's such a different vibe from this 94th Academy Awards to kind of what we're in this season. You can everything about this year is so strange. So I'm excited to talk about it, but I think contextually, I think that's important to really talk about the differences from now and the past.
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things that we do with this is we have the benefit of hindsight here, where we can look back and add that kind of context, with a little bit of hindsight and yeah, just ability to analyze it from a distance. And I think you're right. It was a very weird time, particularly for the Oscars. I mean, they were already, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, where there's already like controversy among the Academy, leading up to the pandemic, and we've touched on that in previous episodes. But now we have to deal with the pandemic and kind of a shortage on films and the weird state that the economy was in and that the film industry was in. So yeah. And I don't know if that's why so many categories were missed one. You made a very interesting point about the effect campaigning can have. Talk about that in your observations and how that
Yeah,
impacted this year.
yeah. So I think as information becomes more available to people, we kind of start to see like, okay, the Oscars are kind of a facade. It's a congratulatory, like employee of the year type of award show for Hollywood to pat themselves in the back, right? We've all kind of known that, and that's why it's fallen off, and that's why they're trying to gain younger viewers and bring people in. But one of the things that is so interesting that this year really exposes is I think we've all kind of collectively understood in the back of our mind, like logically, this is like a brain versus heart kind of thing, right? Where logically we know now that most of the Oscars are all based on campaigns. It's all money, it's all who you've got behind it. That's where you get studios who have great campaigns, they have great marketing, and that's how films get into these categories. Now, most of the time, they will overlap with some of the best films released that year. But typically, that's because those best films have been made by people with the most money. And so it just, money really drives a lot of the Oscars. So we all know that, but in our hearts, we don't like to believe that. We have this like, no, 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 no. The best film of the year got through on merit alone. Like that's how we all hope that these things happen. So because all of the glitz and glamour, all of the celebrities, all of the press junkets, everything that happens to kind of distract you from the set up the smoke screen and like peel back the curtain, none of those things happened this year. Really, we didn't really even start getting Oscar campaigns for these films until the actual Oscar season. Like it really ramped up towards the end when people were like, okay, you can go on a press tour, like you can go on a press junket. So when you remove all of that, right, when you remove all of that, it really shows the blatant campaigning. And I'm gonna just shout it out. Coda is the most egregious example of a film that, listen, Coda is not a bad film. It's a great Sundance darling, and I am all about a movie being able to make it all the way through an entire year into the final cut. Like that is incredible. That is something that does not happen in Hollywood. But this movie, man, that Apple money, the way they went to the White House like in a publicity stunt because they knew that if they just campaigned right, this movie would win. And it was the most egregious showing of it. And I think because we didn't have anything else to distract ourselves from the season, we weren't heavily invested in the precursors because none of them were really on television yet. Everything was happening behind the scenes. So then we had to like actually look at why Coda got there. And then everybody was like, yeah, it was money. Like they just Apple campaigned the shit out of this movie and it worked. Like
it's true. I mean, Apple certainly has that level of influence, and I think this was just a really good time for them to take advantage of it. Like you said, Coda is not a bad film, right? Like getting the nomination for Best Picture, I was very happy for the film for that, right? Like I remember watching it during Sundance because I think I covered it virtually that year, and so I remember watching it during Sundance. I put out a meh review about it. There's some things that I liked and some things that I probably would have done differently with the story. But ultimately not a bad film, not something I would say, oh, you don't need to watch that. Like, yeah, if you have Apple, give Coda a watch. And I remember watching this award show, and I remember thinking like when Troy won Best Supporting Actor, I was like, oh, very cool. Again, pride for the film, right? Like I'm happy that it's now an Oscar-winning film. That's great. And then the show went on, and the movie won Best Adapted Screenplay. And then I was like, wait a minute. Like, is this a trend? Is this a thing that's happening? Do I need to go change my ballot? I think I'm gonna go change my ballot. And sure enough, Best Picture came up and Coda won Best Picture. Now, look, it may not have been the greatest year in film, but it wasn't. There were some pretty heavy contenders up there that I thought had a really great shot at Best Picture. The best one being Power of the Dog. I remember that having so much momentum going into the Oscar show. So much momentum. I mean, you got Del Toro on the docket as well with Nightmare Alley. I know Belfast was a really popular much talked about film. So and Drive My Car, like look, there were some really good contenders for Best Picture here.
Sure. And there's a lot that are missing in my opinion. This is not the list I would compile by any means.
Right. But man, the levels we could go into, like, so we can talk about what won, we can talk about what didn't win, we can talk about what things didn't even get nominated, and there are some on here. You know what? I'll throw it out there. Is Pig on this list?
No, it is not.
Oh
no, it is not.
Man, Pig was so egregiously overlooked, and
I love that movie.
It's a fantastic film.
Yeah.
But just come on, y'all, come on.
But again, campaigns make Oscars.
They do. They do. Right.
They really do. I know it sucks. Let's do this. Because what we're gonna do on this particular show. Because really, we could fix this entire slate. Like this is an Oscars that needs to be basically torn down and rebuilt from the ground up. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of time, right. And this is not the kind of show that we do. We just fix the entire thing. So we have to pick one category. And while we're going to talk a little bit more about some of these other categories, particularly Best Picture, I think is definitely one that we can talk about as we list some of these other movies. We're going to fix Best Actress because that seems to be the category that really needs to be addressed this year. Again, contextually, from this year that we're talking about to the current year that we're in, the difference in actress slate is unbelievable to me. Like you wouldn't even think they were the same categories rewarding the same people. Like it is so crazy how vastly different they are. But fun fact about this, this is actually one of the only years, and this happens very, very rarely. This is actually one of the only years where all 5 of the Best Actress nominees are nominated for films that are not Best Picture nominees. There's no overlap whatsoever.
That is a very interesting point.
Isn't that wild?
Okay, wow.
Isn't that wild?
That is so wild.
that is how strange the 94th Academy Awards are. But let's do this. So let's take a look at the films. Let's take a look at some of the major films that came out in 2021, and then we can highlight some of our personal favorites. Probably ones that didn't actually show up here, and then we can like run down Best Picture and then really dig into the Best Actress because I think that's important.
Yeah.
So let's do that. I'll read off the top 10. Hold on, let me make sure I have 10. 1, 2, 3, because I'll read them all. Sorry.
Right.
Okay, so Disney kind of cleaned up here, man. This is a Marvel year, shockingly. So the highest grossing films domestically were Spider-Man: No Way Home, No Time to Die, F9. Excuse me.
Don't get that title wrong.
Excuse me. F9, A Fast Saga. Venom: Let There Be Carnage. I fresh off of Madam Web, and I want to burn this whole place to the ground. Godzilla v. Kong, which is another just groaner. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. The Eternals, which apparently made a boatload of money, even though nobody liked it. Dune, Black Widow, another Marvel movie on here, and then Free Guy are some of the biggest ones. Disney shows up on here a lot this year, but that's primarily because they have they're basically a monopoly in Hollywood. So when nobody's making movies, they can just dump out all of from their 9 studios that they own.
Right. No, a valid point. I mean, there are some groaners on. I mean, I have not seen Madame Web, and it's because of some of these Marvel showings on here that I am not entirely enthusiastic, and that's a whole nother show, right? Talking about me.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you. I just have to say, I have to let everybody know that this happened. So Madame Web was so bad that I actually texted Thomas right before I texted Thomas before the movie and then confirmed it afterwards. I texted him and said, I think the best part of Madame Web is the trailer they just showed for Daddy-O before this movie started. And then after the movie ended, I was like, yep, that was right. The trailer for Daddy-O is better than Madame Web.
That's so funny. I mean, I haven't seen, I've seen Daddy-O, and I can't imagine what that trailer has. That could be that exciting, but like Madame Web is just that boring. To be fair, Daddy-O is great.
Daddy-O is great. It's one of our favorite films out of TIFF. So I was very excited, but it was literally the only good thing about the entire movie. So
yes, and yes, that's a whole nother show, podcast, whatever. Where my relationship with Marvel has just like become this unfortunately toxic relationship, and I just am not dealing with it anymore. So me and Marvel are on a break.
So it's good.
I have not seen Madame Web, but like I know a lot of people like Shang-Chi. That's great. I didn't care for it. Eternals, I didn't care for that. Spider-Man: No Way Home, I mean, that's the one that actually did exceed expectations, and I think that was a very interesting marketing case study there as well, where I think a lot
Yeah.
of these Marvel movies want to give away too much. And No Way Home was a really great example of how sometimes it's actually better to take things away from the marketing, and that would get people into the theater. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah.
One thing that I've noticed about this year, because I'll read off some ones that I really really like.
Mhm.
But one thing I've noticed about this year, and just listing all of the movies, but then also all the movies that showed up on the Oscar list, a lot of these, a lot more than ever, I think. None of these movies I want to revisit, even if I really liked them.
Right.
There, I could probably count on one hand how many movies of this year in particular where I'm like, oh, Pig is on TNT. I'm gonna watch it. Like
Hmm.
there is very few films in this entire slate of films that got released that I'm, even if I really liked, I will never ever watch again. And that goes for almost every film nominated in almost any category
Hmm.
for this year. So I thought, because I like Shang-Chi, I love No Way Home, but No Way
Hmm.
Home is like a one and done. Like the thrill of that is seeing it once, and it doesn't have staying power. It just doesn't, like, at all.
And it
I would say
doesn't.
the only one on that list. I'd say the
Mhm.
only one on that list is Free Guy, and I know people have issues with that. It's a pandering film, but I
Oh, I love
absolutely
Free
adore it,
Guy.
and it's fun. That's a movie that when it shows up on FX, wherever it's at, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll watch Free Guy again.
Yeah.
Like that's fine. But I can't say that for most of the. I've got a list of like 50 movies. We're not going to read them all, but there's literally like five that I'm like, yes, I will watch it. Let's go watch it right now.
Right. No, that's entirely true. And I think that yeah, one of the reasons that No Way Home doesn't really have rewatchability is because they haven't really done anything with the end of that movie
Yeah.
yet. Anyway, I don't miss Marvel.
Poor
I
Tom. I feel
promise.
like
I
I'm
don't.
breaking him with this list of movies.
I
We picked a bad year, guys.
No, I'm not texting Marvel, okay? I'm not kidding. Their relationship with Marvel, it's not great.
Yeah,
But
that's
no.
fair.
Yeah, anyway, you were reading off some of the other movies from that year.
Yeah, so I'm there's some definite stinkers on this list, but I do, I'm gonna highlight let's pick a handful, not very many, but some that I really really loved that I think are just great. I don't know that I would put them in the Oscar category. Some of them I will. I really loved The Suicide Squad. I thought that was an absolute blast. That's a movie I watched more than once. I really enjoyed that one. The Mitchells versus Machines. That's an Encanto talk that we can have
Yes.
on a completely, when we revisit this year and
Hmm.
pick the animated category. We're going to have that discussion for sure. Zola, which is just fantastic. Pig, I loved The Green Knight. Passing came out this year.
That's right. Yeah.
Cyrano, which, when we want to talk about campaigns, I have never been more pissed about a movie that is impossible to see than Cyrano with Peter Dinklage. Like I remember watching that movie and I was like, what are we doing here? Why do I have to go so far out of my way to watch this movie? You played it for 3 days to qualify for the Oscars and then released it in like April of 2022. Why do you, like, oh my god, I hate Oscar releasing so much. I hate it so.
Right.
I hate the bet hedging. Anyways, and then the last film that I really want to shout out that I just absolutely adored, and I know no one saw this movie, but 9 Days,
Hmm.
with Winston Duke and Zazie Beetz, Benedict Wong. This movie, I know that people have issues with it because it is very like, hey, this is my first philosophy class. I get that, but
Hmm.
damn it, did this movie floor me? And I wish more people saw. No one knows that movie exists, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's such a
It's
beautiful film.
it's so funny because even I have been meaning to see 9 Days for a long time, and I still haven't done it yet. So it
It's
is
so
it is
good. It's so
it's
good.
on my list of things to watch eventually. I hope I get to it soon. You named all the good ones. Yeah, I think oh, there was one I was thinking of. Oh, what I might have put up for best original screenplay was the film Mass. Um
Oh my god, yeah.
by why am I spacing on his name? Um
Uh, is it? It's a
he
yeah. I'm blanking. Who
My
was it?
uh my computer doesn't know either. It's thinking about it. Uh yeah, I'm spacing on his name, but Mass was it's a perfect Sundance film, which is where I saw it. Just one of those like one room, all conversation, but it's so
Mhm.
heavy, and I think it so respectfully acknowledges the the difficulty of that subject. Fran
Fran
Kranz.
Kranz.
Yeah,
Franz
yeah, yeah.
Kranz. That's who did it. Yeah.
And it's so funny because I know him best from Cabin in the Woods.
Oh yeah.
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 So it was so
That's a
when
great one.
it is, and so when they announced his directorial debut, I'm like, oh, the dopey guy in Cabin in the Woods is coming out with a hard-hitting drama.
They always
What?
do it. I don't know how they do it. It always happens. It
So
always happens. Yeah,
yeah,
no, that's a great call out. That's a great
yeah,
call out.
Mass, and there was one other one I was thinking. Oh, Judas and the Black Messiah. Um,
Yes.
that was also a surprise film at Sundance,
Yeah.
and just phenomenal performance from not doing names well today.
Daniel Kaluuya
Kaluuya, yeah, that Daniel. So, and
and
I'm pretty
Lakeith
sure he
Stanfield. Yeah.
yeah, 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 absolutely. Just
Yeah.
fantastic cast, fantastic film. So yeah, everything else I can kind of take it. Even A Quiet Place Part Two. I know we're kind of on the eve of Part Three, and it's not that A Quiet Place Part Two was a bad movie. It's hard to level up from the first A Quiet Place.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think it's just that sequel slump. I think that maybe day one is gonna pick the trilogy back up and hopefully take that story into a place that we aren't expecting. Um,
That's funny because I'm actually more scared for day one than I ever was for part two.
oh, we should
I
be
enjoy
because
I enjoyed part two, but this day one, I look, that's a different show. But yeah, I've got some reservations. But I think you're right. Even something like A Quiet Place Part Two, which I think is good, but also like that's the thing about this year, and that's the thing about a lot of these movies taking it back to the Oscars itself. The problem with this year is just the rewatchability is just not there. Like these are all one and dones. These are all movies that just kind of flash in the pans. Even the list of best picture nominees, I
Mhm.
think maybe two of them I'd be willing to revisit. And I liked a lot of these. But I don't ever want to revisit any
Mhm.
of these movies. Like I just don't.
The only one that I'm gonna call out for its unrewatchability that will probably change here pretty soon, and I'm only calling this out for keywords and buzzwords and searchability on YouTube, uh, is Dune. I by itself, Dune is not a rewatchable movie for me. I have not even there is no interest in me for the last 2 years of going back to watch Dune Part One without Dune Part Two. So that is another one that we are on the eve of. I will be watching. I actually will be seeing going to a press screening for Dune Part Two this week. So I'll
Nice.
be rewatching Dune Part One, but that is literally the only reason I'll rewatch Dune Part One because that by itself is not a movie that I really cared to sit through the first time. I'm hearing
I will
great things
tell
about Part Two,
you,
though.
yeah, I will tell you, I am not a Dune fan.
Mhm.
I just don't, I find the whole story. I get it. Yes, you got to read the books, and yes, you got to see the like. I'm not doing the homework, guys. Don't do that. That's fine if you want to love it. Like I don't have time to read 80 books that came out 50 years ago. Like it's just not gonna happen. I'm sorry. I missed the boat. I missed the train. But I love Denis Villeneuve. He is
Mhm.
probably one of the most masterful directors working today,
Mhm.
which will tie this back to the 94th Academy Awards because it's actually very relevant.
Yep.
But yeah, Dune on a technical level, Dune is an absolute masterpiece. I could take or leave the story, the characters. I don't find it all that interesting, but just from a visual perspective, like
Mhm.
it's absolutely dazzling, and it deserves its spot in the Best Picture nominee list for this
Mhm.
year, by far and away. But you're right; it's not a movie that this is give me the Titanic double VHS
Yes.
part one. Like put it together. Let me just watch the whole damn thing in one sitting.
Exactly. So I'm looking forward to completing that story here in the next couple weeks. So perhaps this is a good time to segue into the category. Best Actress, because we're talking about the quality of these films and how we had entertainment, but it wasn't terribly rewatchable. And that leads me to the winner of Best Actress, which was in this year, Jessica Chastain. And look, do not get me wrong. I love me some Jessica Chastain. All right.
Speak on it. Speak on it.
Right. Whenever she's in a project, I don't care how many misses those films have had, her filmography has had. When she is on a project, I am at the theater. Okay.
Yep.
So like Jessica Chastain is always a win for me, personally. The Eyes of Tammy Faye was not a win for me as a film. And even Jessica Chastain's performance in that film, for me, I don't think really, it's not her best, right? I am always in favor of supporting Jessica Chastain in her career and whatever she does next. But this just wasn't it for a win, let alone a nomination. But this was a weird year, so I guess let's talk about it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is a very weird year, and like I said, all of these, I'm going to list them right now, but all of these women who are nominated for Best Actress are not nominated for films that are in the Best Picture nominee list, which is just absolutely insane. I can't even believe that fact is real. But so you're right. So it's Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman for The Lost Daughter, Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers, Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart for Spencer. So those are the Best Actress nominees. And look, those women are all incredible performers, and they are no stranger to this list. Yeah, actually, all of them. I think the only newcomer is really Stewart. Stewart's the only real newcomer in this category. So all of these women are very familiar with turning in performances and doing work that puts them in the screen. But again, because of how weird this year is, this particular Academy Award slate, nobody saw any of these movies. But I know that for a fact. Like nobody knew Parallel Mothers was a film that existed. Like that movie just. I remember I was watching the nominees at 5 a.m, and they were like, Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers, and I was like, she was in a movie this year? Like I have no idea. That's usually reserved for like Viggo Mortensen, because Viggo Mortensen does that all the time. Viggo Mortensen, like you don't hear a word from him. He doesn't campaign. He's never on a press tour. And then just the night of the Oscars, they're like, and Viggo Mortensen for Best Actor, and you're like, I'm sorry, what? He was in a movie? Like
it's true. And I guess that's just how this year went. I mean, we've talked a lot about the anomaly of this year, and it's just one of those things that happens. But I think for me, the real surprise, because I was looking through ever since you mentioned earlier that none of these movies were nominated for Best Picture. I then started thinking, well, I guess which Best Picture nominees would have had a contending Best Leading Actress?
Yeah, so I think this is a good, we can have this conversation because I think this is very relevant to trying to fix the Academy Awards here. So so listing the Best Picture nominees, you have Coda, Power of the Dog, Nightmare Alley, Belfast, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, West Side Story, King Richard, Dune, and Licorice Pizza. This is when you read off all of those movies, I want to say there's maybe trying to like look at there's maybe 2 out of this, 2 out of 10 that could even qualify to have a performance that would be considered a lead actress performance. Now it's been a little wonky this year because people are just kind of like, well, what has the least competition? So throw her in there. There's a little finagling going on. They did it last year too with like Fablemans and Michelle Williams and all that, but whatever. But this year, like I'm looking at this list and the correlations between the Best Picture nominees and the Best Supporting Actress nominees are almost identical. I think so. Yeah, Power of the Dog, Belfast, King Richard. I don't think Licorice Pizza. So at least three off the top of my head. At least three out of these 10. 3 out of these 10 fill up 3 out of the 5 slots for Best Supporting Actress for this year.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. So there's West Side Story, Belfast, Power of the Dog, and King Richard. So
okay,
of course,
yeah, so 4 out of 5. That's yeah. So yeah, it was a not only is it a strange year for nominees, but you can see that like even the films that they nominated for Best Picture, they had to find other movies that have lead actresses because they just weren't in these. I think for me the biggest snub would be Rachel Zegler for West Side Story. I think that's a huge miss. I think you could probably sneak in. Oh my God, I'm gonna totally blank on her name now. But the lead actress from Haim in Licorice Pizza.
Licorice Pizza, yeah.
Yeah. So I think those two you could probably replace probably any of these women on this list. I mean, definitely you could cross off Nicole Kidman for being the Ricardos. That's the every year. We're just gonna name it here. We're gonna call it the Bohemian Rhapsody Award. And every time we do these, I'm going to find a Bohemian Rhapsody award that doesn't belong, that should never get nominated. And any nomination for being the Ricardos, that's here. That's the Bohemian Rhapsody award. Yeah, so that's definitely you could cross her off. I really love Olivia Colman in The Lost Daughter, but yeah, just give. I would trade out Rachel Zegler for Jessica Chastain for Isa Tammy Faye any day. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's where I would be.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that there is I mean I have in mind in this list of best actresses who I would have given the award to. We're gonna get there and see if we agree on that. But I think you make a lot of valid points. Like with the limited pool that I guess they had to choose from, or at least that were maybe most likely to win, right? Because you had mentioned, and I'm spacing on her name too, Alana Haim. Yeah,
oh, there you go. Yeah, thanks.
I think that would have been a responsible pick. For Best Actress, and something that maybe she wouldn't have won, but I think the nomination would have actually gone a long way to showing like, hey, we are trying to actually nominate people who deserve to be nominated, and not just the usual suspects, so to speak, because that's exactly what Best Actress category here looks like. It's the usual suspects, and then you said with the exception of Kristen Stewart, who needs to be nominated for more, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree.
The world hasn't seen Love Lies Bleeding yet, and just wait till you
shut up. I can't wait. Shut up. I didn't get to go to Sundance. Shut up. I will see it. I'm very excited.
It's coming out. It has a release date and it's coming out really soon. So the world will see that and understand that Kristen Stewart is not just the Twilight girl anymore. Because I do know a lot of people who still
I know.
Yeah, associate her with Twilight. And I mean, I'm sure the royalties, are paying all the basic bills for her, but now she's able to branch out and do things like Spencer. And really show her talents. And I think that there's something there that hopefully the Academy
give her the Robert Pattinson treatment. Like y'all forgave him. It's time to forgive Kristen Stewart. She's out here doing passion projects. Like she's got it. You guys are holding the wrong thing against her, I promise. Right. But it's funny. So I think this is also a year where I don't think people watched a lot of movies. And I say that as not just myself, but like voters. It definitely feels like they didn't watch a lot of movies, and then when they did, they just didn't watch them all the way through, or didn't watch some of these ones. So because I'm looking at this list of the top 50 or most popular 50 movies that I saw or that came out in 2021, and even from this list, there's not a lot of movies that you could even sneak into this Best Actress category. The only ones I can see would be things like Mass, The Last Duel, Passing, and like that's it. Like there's just not a lot of just going through. There are just not a lot of options, which is why I think we ended up with this list in particular. I'm sure I'm missing some, and I'm sure somebody is shouting at the screen. They're like, "Where's this movie?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I didn't put it on the list. I apologize."
Put it in
like,
the comments, y'all.
yeah, put it in the comments, and then you can check me. I'm willing to be checked.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, those are egregious snubs. You've got Ruth Negga and Tessa Thompson,
Mm-hmm.
like in just this incredible film that Netflix is erasing. So but it also, I think it demonstrates kind of how weird this year is and how strange this Academy Awards are, where it's just people just didn't watch movies. They just got a ballot and screeners, and we're like, oh, I recognize Penelope Cruz's name, I'm just going to give it to her. Like that's what it felt. Nobody watched Parallel Mothers. Stop it. Nobody saw this movie. You cannot convince me that the voting body of the 94th Academy Awards watched Parallel Mothers. I don't believe you.
That is so funny. I mean, and I think that there can be a whole conversation around the culture of voting. I'm with the Seattle Film Critics Society, and we do our very best every year with our awards process to make sure that everyone gets the access to the screeners that they can get, that they have ample time to vote. And this is just, we do it because it's a passion project of ours, and so we do it because we want to do it. And so that kind of helps with like the level of authenticity there. But when you have this academy who might feel obligated to do it, that changes exactly how invested they might be in choosing the right categories. And I do wonder what that culture is like with this particular body of voters for this particular year.
Yeah. And it's a strange year, and it's a year where I feel like half the world is at home, the other half is out and about doing stuff, and the way that I think people's relationships with films were just different. I know we talk about it like it was 84 years ago, but it was like 3 max. But it does feel like everything was different. It feels like the whole landscape was different. So I think voting bodies in particular, not only did they have a really poor slate of female-led films, to be honest,
Right.
that even featured strong performances for actresses for this year. But I think you could apply that to almost every category. I mean, look, Denis Villeneuve made Dune and didn't even make best director. Like all they got were technical categories. That was it. They got technical categories, and he blanked on best director. They're going to apologize this year. I know that he's gonna get his apology nomination. We all know that's coming, but you shouldn't have to. You know what I mean? Like you shouldn't have to. And Dune is one of those movies for this year in particular where like you don't have an excuse. This was a day and date release. Like it showed up at home, whether you're press or not. Like everybody could have watched Dune that day. Like you don't have to wait for screener for this one. Everybody can watch this movie, and there's no way. I'm speaking as somebody who doesn't even like Dune, and you should have at least nominated the man for best director. Like that's such an egregious snub. But anyways.
It is. I think there is, you had just mentioned, I think what is probably the biggest takeaway, and maybe the reason that this category is so misawarded when it comes to best actress. And I think there is a significant lack of female-led films in this year. Like, how do we explain that? How do we reconcile that? Because I'm looking through the list, and I mean, none of the blockbusters are female led. I'm trying to think, like the ones that have the best female led performances, probably 9 Days, which nobody saw. Passing, which again nobody saw. I mean, the only thing that I would say is like, oh, there's a female led performance in a popular movie was probably House of Gucci. And I wouldn't nominate that.
And God damn it, did they try? Oh my. Oh my, did they try? Yeah. And then you have like little tiny ones. You have small films like Shiva Baby.
Yeah.
But again, those are those are festival films. Those are for
Yeah,
us. Like
it's
we
not the
champion
same.
those. It's not the same.
Like there are ensemble films. I mean, the Suicide Squad. There's another. I guess Justice League. Like there's on Army of the Dead. Like there's ensembles,
Yeah.
but
And then you've got Cruella, which is tying up.
Cruella.
You
Yeah.
got, you got that, which is tying up Emma Stone,
Yep.
who she's fine, but no one's given her an Oscar for Cruella. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not going to happen. Like, I
It's
don't care how good she is in the movie. Like,
right.
she's not getting an Oscar. Like, you tied up a contender with a prequel nobody asked for.
Right.
So
If I'm not mistaken, did it win costume? I'm pretty sure.
I think
Yeah,
it did.
it
Yeah.
won costume. Like
Yeah.
the one category, it had no choice but to win.
Right.
There was really no reason for anything else to win that category but
Yeah.
Cruella. And so yeah, so you're right. I guess Emma Stone was tied up with that one, and that's just not like an Oscar type movie. But it was fun.
Yeah.
From what I remember, because I never revisited it.
Yep. Yep. That's another one. One and done, baby.
Yeah, I think that that is actually a very interesting observation that the majority, like there are very, very, very few female-led mainstream films this year. Um I'm gonna sleep on that and like be a little disturbed about that for a few days.
It's very, and again, the gaps in physical time uh don't demonstrate the gaps in just kind of where we are in culture, like in the zeitgeist, because
Mhm,
here we're talking about the 94th Academy Awards where women are basically blanked. Like, you've got, yes, you get Jane Campion, who ends up winning for best director, which is
mhm,
phenomenal and it's historic and all of that, but then when you dig a little deeper, like, women have basically been shut out of 2021. Like, that's,
mhm.
I hate to say that, but that is what it looks like on the surface as we have this conversation. And then you fast forward to this year, where it's like there are too many women and not enough slots. Like, we're having a very different discussion where we're like, open up Best Actress to 10 because there's not enough. Like,
Yes, and I mean, and then you have the whole controversy about Greta Gerwig
sure.
and Margot Robbie, right? So like it is interesting. I think that there's a probably some social commentary that we can have on another show. We've invented about 10 shows in this episode.
That's why Snubbed is so fun. It's so fun to go back and just look at this time capsule and
Right.
just kind of like examine everything and then try to fix the smallest part of it that we can.
Yes, because now it feels like there's a sense of overcompensation and
Yes.
like
Yes.
I mean great. I'm glad that we're having that representation balance out a little bit better,
Mhm.
but man, it does make me wonder like what behind the scenes, like how did this shake out to be such a underrepresented year for women,
Yeah.
especially in prominent roles.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's very strange. Um, so yeah, I guess we should just fix this Best Actress category.
let's fix it. Yes, we
Um,
can't like we can't fix everything.
Yeah, yeah. I would
Right.
love to fix this entire year. I really would. I would erase the slap from existence. Just for starters, and then
Right.
the best picture lineup wouldn't even look the same. We would. There's a lot to fix this year, but we're gonna stick with the best actress fix.
Right.
Now let me ask you, because we're early into our ventures and Snubbed.
Hmm.
I don't think we've established all the rules. So, do we have to pick a best actress from the category of nominations, or if we just want to say, hey, they dropped the ball completely on this one, she didn't even get nominated, but she needs to be in this list, and that's who I'm going to give my award to.
I am perfectly fine considering people who did not get the nomination. Because as we have identified, sometimes even this nomination process can be a little wonky. And there can be some egregious snubs. I'm telling you, if we do Best Actor, if we come back to Best Actor for this one, I'm going to rant endlessly about how overlooked Nicolas Cage has been, and it's very unfortunate. But
Yes,
that's
yes.
for
We're
another
on the same
episode.
train. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we
So
can just have a Patreon rant and then
right.
it'll just be
Exactly.
our pig episode. And then, yeah, totally down. Totally
So
down.
so yes, I'm down for picking anyone who had a great performance that we think
Okay.
they just entirely missed on.
Okay.
Um
Cool.
so having said that, who do you have in mind that wasn't nominated?
Yeah. And again, the pickings are slim, right?
Right.
So I would pick from three films, and I'll stick with a film that actually did get nominated.
Hmm.
But three films that I think have best actress performances that 100% like deserve to be on this list would be Rachel Zegler for West Side Story,
Hmm.
Ruth Negga for Passing,
Hmm.
and I'm blanking on her name, but the lead actress in Mass. Um,
Oh,
like how those three women did not end up on this list is mind blowing to me. I just do not understand how that's even possible. Because it's unbelievably egregious, and I think in any other year, in any normal year, I feel like they probably would have launched some pretty decent campaigns. Look, if if we can get what's her name, if we can get two Leslie nominated, we can get anything. We can get anything nominated. It's just a good campaign, guys. That's it. Just invite Gwyneth Paltrow over to your house and do a goose party. Campaigns abound. Tell her it's the best movie she's ever seen.
that's funny.
So of those ones, though, since there's only one of them that actually got nominated for anything, I am going to give my Best Actress award statue to the very overlooked Rachel Zegler, who basically didn't even get invited to the Oscars, which I mean, she ended up being there, but like you've got Ariana DeBose winning her Best Supporting Actress, and like those two together are just electric on screen in this film. Like Spielberg just does something magnificent with this reinterpretation. You got Mike Feist, who's just absolutely murdering it in this movie. Like this, I get it. Your lead has some controversy, and that's probably why it was stifled a little bit. But
Right.
man, there is some just gorgeous craft going on here, and she is a bona fide star. She needs to fire her agent because they're just not. They're doing nothing but disservice for her, and I hate it because that woman deserves way more than what she's getting. Like, get her out of franchise shit. Let her do real movies. Let her do send her on the festival circuit for a bit. Like, let her earn those chops. Like, I would love to see her show up in a random TIFF drama. Like, just give it to me. Like, I love Rachel Zegler. I hate most of the films that she's in. But this is the exception to all of those rules. She's incredible in this movie. So Rachel Zegler, if you're watching, this award is for you. You deserve this award.
I think that's a really good observation with Rachel and her career, because yeah, she's landing a lot of these big budget mainstream films, which is, I guess, for her career, great. Making that money, that's awesome. But I think she has the talent to really support just a really good indie film, and a really good story, something that we would actually talk favorably about.
Yeah.
And she can be one of those performers who holds down a film, who takes the lead and is just the biggest talking point of that film. She can do that, but she can't do that when her filmography is what Shazam,
Fear of the Gods, a Hunger Games prequel.
Like,
I think there's one other one where I'm just like, oh, why are you doing?
White's coming out, right? Like, the
no,
titles of these movies are so overbearing that I think they really overshadow the kind of talent that she has, because people are drawn to it and are really paying attention to the name brand rather than the performances. So
and I get it, she can sing, but she can also act. Like, she can do both, so let her work those acting chops. I send her on the festival. Like, show up at Sundance, girl. Like, let's go. Like,
absolutely. So I mean, we have to get through Snow White. I just I I get it. Like,
I get it too.
when
I know why.
when Disney
Yeah.
calls, you
Yeah.
answer, you get that
Yeah.
check.
Especially when you're young, you don't have like that Robert Downey Jr. power, right? Where like
Right.
you can just run up the checks and like keep getting paid and get paid, and then finally being like, yeah, I'm over. Like, please kill me. I want to go earn an Oscar now. Like,
Right.
I'm done with this Marvel shit. She doesn't have that. Like, she doesn't have any of that power in Hollywood. So when you get these major franchises, when you get DC, when you get Marvel, when you get Hunger Games, when you get all these
Hmm.
major IP franchises that will pay you an exorbitant amount of money to show up in these movies, like, yeah, you're young. Like, you're like 12 years old. She's not that
Hmm.
young, but she's like early 20s. Like, she's
Early
young.
20s. Yep.
So, like, I get it. I understand why she's saying yes to all of these things. I hope she learns, because she's deserving of a lot more. And I want her career to be better, which is why I'm giving her this award. So,
So just because again, I love imagining the people who are like yelling at us about information that they know. Put it in the comments. For
By the
anyone,
way, for anybody that does, I'm that guy. So I'm that guy that'll like listen to the show back and be like, "Will you say the right thing? Damn it!"
right. Um, for anyone who would like to amend the mainstream focus that we have on Rachel Zegler's career, I do know that there is a A24 film called Y2K coming out. I don't know anything about it. She's in it. It's A24. I show up for
Okay.
A24. So like,
Yeah.
let's go. Let's see if this is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So if I know, now I know. Okay.
I hope it's like Pig A24 and not Civil War A24.
Um,
I'm just really really hoping.
well, it's interesting because it says it's a disaster comedy film,
Okay.
and it comes out in a month,
No, it doesn't.
March 9th. Oh, I'm sorry.
2020.
I'm sorry. That's the world premiere. So it's world premiering at South by Southwest.
Oh, okay,
Okay, that
gotcha,
makes more
gotcha.
sense.
Okay, I was like,
I saw
hold
the
up.
I saw the date and was like, I can't be that out of tune, right? Like, so yeah, I think you have picked a really good one for that. I am going to skew towards Kristen Stewart here.
Okay.
I remember watching Spencer, and Spencer, it's not again, it's one and done films, right? Like it's not something that I have ever thought about revisiting again, but I do think about Kristen Stewart's performance in that film. And I think if she had won this award, it probably would have helped with the mainstream perception of her and her acting ability. It would
Mhm.
have given people more of a reason to go check out Spencer and see that she is a really really good actress and can take on these really difficult and challenging roles in
Mhm.
these movies that at least the Twilight people wouldn't expect her to be in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So not that she needed that kind of recognition, because like I said, I've already name dropped Love Lies Bleeding, and I think that that's going to help with her perception. And honestly, like she also had the film Love Me at Sundance as well. So she is doing that indie thing
Yeah.
that we love to see in actors' careers. So she's really embracing that right now, and that's awesome. And I hope that she continues with that momentum and continues picking up great roles. In this year, I would again, not only is it that I didn't like Jessica Chastain's performance in The Eyes of Tammy Faye, but I loved Kristen Stewart's performance in Spencer, and I would correct this category by giving her the Oscar.
Yeah. It's a great pick. And I would probably say if I had to choose from that list, like I couldn't go outside and do
Hmm.
my wild card, Rachel Zegler. It would be between her and Olivia Colman in The Lost
Hmm.
Daughter,
Hmm.
because both of those performances are really worthy of being on this list. And I agree with you. I think if she had won, I think people would change. I think people are coming around to Kristen Stewart, but it's taking a lot longer. And I think if she won the award, people would come around a lot more, and
Hmm.
they'd already be kind of on the Kristen Stewart train, which I'm telling you guys need to get on. Like,
Yeah.
you need to watch more movies. That's she's actually in a lot of them, and she's actually really damn good in most of them. Like,
Right. Absolutely. I'm trying to think, because Penelope Cruz was one that I was thinking about. But I was mainly just annoyed that she was so overlooked for Official Competition.
oh,
But
she's
that
so
was
good in that movie.
I'm thinking that was the next year that Official
Yeah,
Competition just got entirely overlooked.
yeah. She's one of those people too, though. Like, when we talk about people not, she's no stranger to this list,
She's
and
not, right.
she can, any year she misses, I'm never really that bothered by it, because I
Mhm.
know next year, like, she'll probably get in, or will be like, she's just that good. She really is. She's the best part of Ferrari.
Yes,
She,
literally. Like the
like
only
hands
reason to
down,
watch
she's the
Ferrari.
yeah. She is the hands down the only good part. Like, every time she showed up, I was like, can we just have this movie, please?
Yes.
Because that woman gets it. Like, nobody else gets it. Like, she gets it. She totally gets it. And Penelope Cruz just has a knack for doing that. Like,
Yeah.
I please go watch Official Competition, guys. If you haven't
Oh
seen
my
that
gosh.
movie, it is so quirky and weird and
Phenomenal.
funny and meta, and just like, that movie is so good. Like, her and Antonio Banderas just bickering back and forth and trying to like oh my god, it's so good. That
It
movie
is
is so great. I
brilliant.
love
Really,
that movie.
really quick story about that one. So I originally saw Official Competition at the Vancouver International Film Festival,
Okay.
you can ask any of my friends that went. I was the one laughing the loudest. I'm pretty sure I was really obnoxious about that, but it was that fun of a movie for me. And so a few months later, I ended up going to a secret screening. And I don't know, I can't say which secret screening, and I didn't know what the movies were going to be, but I remember the lights went down and then the opening credits came up and it said Penelope Cruz, and I was like, yes, I am absolutely here to sit for this movie a second time. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's so good. So good.
So
Yeah, no, that's a great movie. It's a
so
great
good.
movie.
So anyway,
Yeah.
but you make a good point about her. She's going to show up again. She's a great
Yeah.
actress, and she's going to keep getting great roles. And yeah, but I think Kristen Stewart deserves a statue. And
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
where I end that conversation on that.
That's fantastic. So guys, that's us. We have fixed the best actress category with our nominations, with our awards. The 94th Academy Awards Best Actress category has been fixed. We fixed your snubs. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
That's what we do. But yeah, look, in the comments, if you have people that you think should have won in the Best Actress category, let us know. We already talked about it. I know the pickings were very slim, but every year there's snubs, and that's why we like to go back and take a look at them. So
absolutely. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And I think I just want to point this out. Brown dudes and black tees look really good. I'm just saying, we out here just looking fine. On that note,
back to black, baby. Back to black. What's up?
There. I just had to end on a positive note. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Bye.